Hi, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of NaPoWriMo 30 Poetry Prompts in 30 Days. Yesterday, we talked about Mary Oliver and wild geese. Today, I'm going to be going in a direction of language play. Just a few quick things. This is again new to me. I apologize if the sound and the video quality is not the best. Hopefully, in time, I'll work that all out. But thanks for being with me. Again, I'm trying this out as if I were to be giving you a live in person poetry prompt. So, if you are joining in, welcome. You can write along to your heart's content, pause the video whenever you want, come back, speed up the video if you want to get through it quicker. So, make YouTube work for you. Um, Day number 2, here we are. I was thinking I'd also mention the process I'm going through, which is like a rapid study of 30 of my favorite poems. And of course, if you've been reading poetry for a long time, you're going to have way more than 30. So I had to pare it down. This is not going to be everything, but it's going to be some. And maybe next year we'll have some more. Anyway, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's just stay where we are today, April 2nd, 2021, day 2 of NaPoWriMo. Think about for yourself, if you have read poetry for a while, what would be your list of 30 poems that have changed you? And if you haven't read that many poems really yet, that's cool. Just keep reading. Different poems will strike different people in different ways. So, again, this is my way of offering to you a just a video prompt to get you writing. You can also, by the way, on YouTube, or leave some poems if you want in the comments. Like, I don't know, try it out. You might not want to if you want to go and get them published, but if you want to just share a little snippet of what you write, if you do write to the prompt, feel free to do that. I'm going to get started here on day 2 and going to share a poem from Cummings. So, Cummings is one of the first poets I learned in high school that really jostled me up, the way that he plays with language. So, I'll talk a little bit more about Cummings at the end of the video, but for right now, let's read this poem as our inspiration text. Anyone lived in a pretty how town. Anyone lived in a pretty how town, with up so floating many bells down. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. He sang his didn't, he danced his did. Women and men, both little and small, cared for anyone, not at all. They sowed there isn't, they reaped their same. Sun, moon, stars, rain. Children guessed, but only a few, and down they forgot as up they grew. Autumn, winter, spring, summer, that no one loved him more by more. When by now and tree by leaf she laughed his joy, she cried his grief. Bird by snow and stir by still, anyone's any was all to her. Someone's married, they're everyone's. Laughed their cryings and did their dance. Sleep, wake, hope, and then they said their nevers, they slept their dream. Stars, rain, sun, moon, and only the snow can begin to explain how children are apt to forget to remember with up so floating many bells down. One day anyone died, I guess, and no one stooped to kiss his face. Busy folk buried them side by side, little by little, and was by was, all by all, and deep by deep, and more by more they dream their sleep. No one and anyone, earth by April, wish by spirit, and if by yes. Women and men, both dong and ding, summer, autumn, winter, spring, reaped their sowing and went there came sun, moon, stars, rain. Okay, what a trip. I love Cummings. Okay, so just let's do it. Let's write together. So let's think about getting through this intro and getting to the first quick write. I'm going to give you a little heads up. This is going to be 5 super, super, super quick writes just to get some words on the page. And just to remind you of our little writing mantra as we get going, just remember, if you want to listen, I am here and present with my experiences. I am grounded and open. I have unlimited access to an infinite flow of creativity always around me. And I can play with language however I want. Whatever happens on these pages today, it's what's meant to happen. And I'm not judging myself or my writing. I'm just writing today, playing, experimenting. I have everything I need to begin already inside of me. I'm settling in and I'm ready to write. So here we go. Remember, you can go at your own pace. So pause the video whenever you want to go ahead and take some time to write. I give you a suggestion of time, but feel free to disregard it. So go as fast or slow as you want. If you want to put a minute on, make a quick list of prepositions. So preposition is a word that could fit in this blank here. The cat jumped the pond, the cat jumped around the pond, about the pond, in the pond, between the pond, over the pond, around the pond. Maybe I already said that one. So it's a word describing some sort of spatial relationship. So just brainstorm some prepositions and get some on the page. In fact, if you want to do a thing where you're making columns, I'm just going to tell you we're doing this 5 times with different parts of speech. So put a minute on, and I'll see you back. Okay, for the next one, step 2, same sort of deal. Whatever little bit of time you want to take, around a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever you want. But this is pretty quick. Make a list of pronouns. So there's not an unlimited number of pronouns, but just think about which ones, are around you. I, he, we, she, it, they, everyone, everything, something. So think about those types of words too, the non-specific sorts of pronouns standing in for a specific noun. Okay, moving right along after you've done those. Now make a list of verbs. So in the process of writing poetry, creating this type of word bank is always really good to get some ideas on the page. So just whatever verbs come to mind. This is just letting your brain put some things on the page. Don't worry about relationships, but just a quick minute or so on that. All right, next one is adverbs. It's funny because in poetry, they'll often, I've heard it so many times, be careful about not using too many adverbs or adjectives. In this case, we want to look at all the parts of speech. So an adverb is a modifier telling us how or when or where something is happening. So like slowly describes it when. Howly is a word that E. Cummings made up. Upidly is a word I made up. So you can make up some words. This is that type of prompt. Ever, never, sometimes. So do a quick list of adverbs. Okay, welcome back. Next, I think this is the final one, nouns. Nouns, oh, nouns, oh, the infinite nature of nouns. So just spend a minute or so writing down some nouns, which are just concrete things, people, places, things, objects. All right, minute for that. Okay, welcome back. When you are ready, go ahead and look at your list. you should have a few good types of parts of speech words on your paper. So, this prompt is really less about constructing meaning and actually more about playing with language. So, E.E. Cummings was well known for playing with language. And so today I want to invite you to just have a little fun. Don't worry about writing the deepest poem you've ever written, the most profound or emotional. Poetry can also just be fun with sound and words. And so your prompt is to take this word bank you have in front of you. You can always add more words, you're never limited, but construct a nonsense poem. So pair different parts of speech together in unusual ways. So if you have it on your page written, you might even just draw some lines and connect some dots between your adverbs and your nouns and your verbs and your what else did I give you? The parts of speech, prepositions. So put them all, like mash them all. Do a little mix up. You can make words up if you want. You can make make things not make sense. So think about sound as well. How much rhyme and rhythm and pacing was in the example poem. So here are just a couple of from my brain. Someone snapped about a tug. Something shouted out about a bug. So I don't know where that would go, what kind of nonsense that would lead to, but you know what? I give you full permission to just write a nonsense poem. If you come out with some sort of meaning, some sort of structure, maybe you find some refrains, maybe you find something really interesting, or maybe you just enjoy this as a practice round of letting language be a little funky. Okay, so get weird with it if you want. Feel free to put around 20 minutes on the clock. This is also one that could be done pretty quick, I think, if you wanted to. So maybe you won't need that long. But there's your prompt. So go ahead and stop the video and write if you'd like. And then if you want to come back and hear a little bit about E.E. Cummings, be my guest. Okay, well, if you enjoyed some writing time or if you're just listening along, I want to share why I chose this poem and what E.E. Cummings' poetry means to me. So, E.E. Cummings was born in 1894 and he died in 1962 at the age of 68. Um, Reading about E. Cummings is interesting because he went to Harvard, yet he also faced some financial challenges as an artist, shall we say, in sort of his lull years, well, kind of before he got recognized for his poetry. Um, I think that's a point of interest just to mention that artists, especially artists like E. Cummings, who are pretty avant garde and experimental, doing things sort of against their time, he had a good few years of complete obscurity and financial difficulties. So, shout out to artists just on their path, doing their thing, keep doing your thing. E. Cummings was a pacifist. So he went to war. There's a whole few stories about his war, and he wrote a book about it. Eventually, he made it to the Soviet Union after the war, and apparently just got so riled up and angry about the government there that he came back and wrote about it. And what strikes me about E.E. Cummings, that you can see through the language, is that he was not a conformist to his day in any regard. He pushed against the natural conventions of language and he pushed against dominant ideas of the time. He was very much about love. He wrote a little bit erotically in a time like the early 20th century when that wasn't fashionable or acceptable, shall we say. And he strikes me as an artist that was just super committed to doing things his own way. He definitely got criticism. There are critics. There's going to be critics of everyone. Some saying that his poetry didn't really like evolve, past some of the initial linguistic acrobatics he was doing. But whether, you want to think about that or not, there is an undeniable freshness to the way that Cummings uses language that has definitely influenced me as a poet. So, he wrote 2,900 poems in his life, according to the internet. I'll cite my sources in the description. And, it's also been said that his poetry was clear and childlike and bursting with language, opening the doors of language in ways that we don't normally think about it, with his unusual syntax and sentence structure. So that's really what I was interested in this prompt and getting us to write about is poetry really can it can really move our ways of thinking outside of our normal language barriers in the sense of like the way that we just normally think in prose, in conversational speech, and poetry can really come in and disrupt that. And once you disrupt the natural conventional style of language, sometimes interesting things emerge. Cummings used the phrase most people, one word, most people, to criticize the sort of conformist, commercialist attitudes of the day, which I would say many of our social attitudes are still very conformist and commercial. And so Cummings was really a strong individualist. I mean, he was an artist. Most artists tend to be very individualistic, but he was just adamantly so. Um, However, strangely, with all of his avant-garde experimental poems, he did make it into the canon of at least, modern contemporary literature. And another thing I thought was interesting I wanted to share is that he actually decided he was a poet when he was a child. So when he was between the ages of 8 and 22, apparently he wrote one poem a day. Mm. Like I thought writing 30 poems in 30 days was good or whatnot, but pretty astounding that, it seems like he was writing constantly as a child and he was writing in traditional poetic forms. So this is another reason why I love writing in form, um, because you sort of need to master the formal structures of language in order to mess them up. It's like know the rules in order to break the rules. So if you're coming to Cummings thinking he just started with that style, that's not how it went. He studied the traditional classics as a child. So anyway, I love the way that Cummings plays with syntax and experiments with the construction of language. For me, reading him early on definitely imprinted in my mind something I didn't even know that was possible with language. And now I'm so grateful to have discovered Cummings, and I still go back and discover him. He's kind of like got a very specific flavor, like aesthetic. So I I love it. By the way, I'll just share one line from one of my poems that I feel is so much in the style of Cummings. I have a line that I wrote called "The heart, if it leads, won't end." So just I like doing a little bit of the subtle syntactical surprise, and I do definitely credit reading Cummings as an influence in that. Okay, so I'm going to end here with a quote by the poet himself, and I think this sums up a lot of why I like Cummings so much, even not being a scholar, doing a rapid study, please go learn more, read more about these poems if they strike you. But here is something E. Cummings said about himself. He said, I am someone who proudly and humbly affirms that love is the mystery of mysteries and that nothing measurable matters a very good goddamn. That an artist, a man, a failure is no mere when fully accreting mechanism, but a givingly eternal complexity, neither some soulless and heartless, ultra predatory infra animal, nor any understandingly, knowingly, and believing, thinking automaton, but a naturally and miraculously whole human being, a feelingly illimitable individual whose only happiness is to transcend himself, whose every agony is to grow. E. Cummings is what I would call a very crunchy poet. He has a lot of crunchy words in there. And you'll notice even in that quote from a lecture he gave, created his own adverbs. And he can do that. And I want to let you know you can do that. Play with language, make up words, let poetry open your faculties of language to experimentation and linguistic agility, So I just want to leave you on that note. Thank you for joining on day 2 of NaPoWriMo 2021 3030. Got links and stuff in the description and all of that jazz. And see you tomorrow. Thank you for being here.